After a 3-year hiatus, the world's fastest motorsport series returns to put the best race pilots on the planet to the ultimate test once again. Kicking off in spectacular style in Abu Dhabi, the Red Bull Air Race doesn't take place on a paved course, but over the Persian Gulf at 370 kilometers an hour between inflatable 8-story pylons. For 3 days of flying, 75 workers spend 2 weeks putting up the racetrack and other constructions bound to be dismantled when the race is over. Whether it's the control tower, the airplane hangars, or the temporary runway, the air race facilities not only require a lot of work, but also extremely specialized know-how. Thanks to the experts behind the scenes, 12 fearless pilots will tear up the sky to get a shot at the world title. Get ready for takeoff. This is extreme science. Abu Dhabi, the capital of the United Arab Emirates, is hosting the Red Bull Air Race for a record 7th time since the championship was founded in 2005. Located an hour from Dubai, this metropolis of close to 1 million inhabitants provides the perfect conditions to enjoy the show from Corniche Beach. In a fantastic setting where historic monuments mingle with ultra-modern skyscrapers, the aviation elite unites for a weekend to crown the fastest pilot in the world. Two weeks before the event, operations begin in Abu Dhabi. The work takes place on 3 separate sites, including the main enclosure, home to the production offices, the media area, the main control tower, and the aquatic operations headquarters. 5 kilometers away is Mina Zayed, a port which oil tankers and fishing boats will soon have to share with single-engine race planes. These planes will be housed in hangars set up near a temporary runway. Elsewhere in the port, the aquatic operations team assemble the air gates. Arriving in pieces, these floating barges will be transported by water to the track once they're assembled. Head of production Jacob Gehlhofer handles every step of the construction, and the tight schedule leaves him little room for surprises. The task is even more colossal after an over 3-year hiatus.
I'm head of production, being the first man here and probably the last one who leaves. The old air race was something really special, but now we go back to the sporty roots, make a proper sport event out of it, but keeping also budget in mind.
An icon of the air race, the main control tower will make its final lap before being retired for good. The 5-story, 27-meter structure will soon house for the very last time the race headquarters, the security dispatch, and the video center.
This was something really iconic from the past, and the city of Abu Dhabi asked for it, so we brought it here, use it probably for the last time. In most locations, we will have existing structures like the racetracks in US, where we have perfect race control rooms. In the end, it shouldn't be iconic, it should be practical.
Transported by sea in containers, the structure's components are assembled by veterans who know the tower inside out. The 4 of them have only 3 days to finish this giant 3D puzzle made up of thousands of pieces. At the other end of the main enclosure, another team begins setting up the track under the supervision of Marco van Es. They position the anchors that will keep the air gates firmly in place.
Tony, I don't hold unless I have to.
Okay. 14 days before the Red Bull Air Race, we start with placing buoys and anchors in the racetrack. Here in Abu Dhabi we use, for example, 39 anchors of 500 kilos with 150 meters of anchor lines. It's calculated which winds we expect and the weather conditions in the racetrack.
The anchor is first set down at the spot shown on the track plan, then attached with a steel cable to a temporary buoy that shows the future location of each air gate. At Zayed Port, other aquatic operations team members have a week to assemble the barges that will soon be moved to the track. This team, however, is already running late due to the high winds preventing the crane from putting the barges in the water. 25 meters long by 12 meters wide, 5 of these barges will each support 2 pylons. 4 other smaller barges will each support 1 pylon. The team starts by assembling the structure of each barge, which they then place over giant floats. Previously used by the Army, these floats transported tanks across rivers. With little space available on the wharf, the workers soon won't have room to put together any more barges. To free up space, the ones already assembled will have to be put in the water. Fortunately, the winds die down, and a few hours later, the crane can finally begin its work. But the team isn't out of the woods yet. The blowers and pylons that are supposed to be on the barges haven't yet arrived in Abu Dhabi, and the air gates are put in the water before they're even finished. For Holger Lepridge, the man in charge of the air gates, that poses a real puzzle.
Right now we have a problem. We have to work something out because one container is missing. The ship is late and it's arriving in the next 2 or 3 days. Our operations are planned months before, and we make a workflow, a rundown. Sometimes things happen like a container is delayed or something, and then we have to change the plan. In the end, it will be that we have some nights to work through just to get all the air gates done in time.
While work picks up on the Corniche, the 12 pilots taking part in the championship are at the Ras Al Khaimah Airport, located at the northern edge of the United Arab Emirates. To help the pilots hone their reflexes, Red Bull sets up a training camp on a test track closely similar to the one in Abu Dhabi.
One of the challenges we face is track time. A track is such a monumental thing to set up. The pylons, the men and equipment to operate it, that we don't have tracks just sitting at home in our backyards. Of course, we fly the airplane ahead of time, but there's no substitute of just actually being in the track itself.
A few weeks before the race, Canadian pilot Pete McLeod gets ready in London, Ontario, in conditions that are far removed from those in Abu Dhabi. With the Red Bull Air Race's return, McLeod now has a new team in place, unfamiliar with the competitive circuit, making his last flight days in Canada all the more important.
It's January here in London. Today's going to be a cold one. It's minus 14. It's snowing one minute, sunny the next minute, so I'm just not sure what's going to happen. We start every day by saying, okay, we want to be ready to fly today. Well, you show up and the weather's bad, you take the plane apart, work on something, and then maybe race to put it back together to try to take advantage of the weather window and take it apart again and put it back together and take it apart. So that cycle goes on and on. I think I should maybe get like a head start or something in the race for getting ready in Canada. It'll be a big change environmentally going from Canada to Abu Dhabi. The last time we were in Abu Dhabi, you could lose 2 or 3 pounds in 15 minutes of being in the racetrack. The airplane, we just don't know how it's going to perform in those temperatures, and if the settings that are working for us here in Canada will even work at all.
The six-cylinder standardized engines used by all pilots are cooled only by the air flowing through the cowling. But since London's cold air is naturally more cooling than the air in Abu Dhabi, the engine tests performed by McLeod and his team verge on pure speculation.
If we weren't racing, it wouldn't be a problem. But because we're racing, we want to minimize the amount of air that we let in and out of the cowling, because the less air we allow in to cool the motor, the less drag we're putting on the airplane. And then we do that with changing the inlets and outlets of the cowling. Right now we're testing that in temperatures well below zero, and it's working. It's working great, perfect. So no problems with over-temping the motor. We could get to Abu Dhabi and find out that our temperatures are going too high because we're not cooling it enough, and this could be a big problem for us. The period immediately before the race in Abu Dhabi will be extremely valuable. It's been 3 years since we've been at a race, and I'm ready to get back in the track. I think I've got a great airplane and a great crew, and I want to continue on my quest to become world champion.
Back in Abu Dhabi, 10 days from the big takeoff, workers join forces to continue installing the barges on the track.
Tony, gaat goed? Okay, Sean, everything okay?
Sean, you okay?
Okay.
The head of aviation is making the track plan. He's giving us GPS coordinates of the track. With the laptop, with internal GPS, we see ourselves in the track. So we can go with a boat exactly to the spot where we want to be, so we can connect the buoys and the wires.
To solidify the barges, the team has to take into account the tides as well as wind gusts, because once they're up, the 25-meter pylons have a large surface area for the wind to catch. Not only do the floats support the weight of the barge, but their buoyancy capacity also allows to tighten the cables that hold the structure firmly in place.
I've seen on this calibration point now that we are 7 meters out of position. We have to move 7 meters in that direction.
Every morning at 8 o'clock, we will be on the gate to recheck the position exactly. In the beginning of the air race, it was a little bit different. Sometimes the gates were moving, and it was for one pilot easier than for the other one, and it should not be so. Nowadays, everything is perfectly in position the whole race.
On the main site, the control tower assembly is running smoothly. But a problem arises upon delivery of the 4 concrete blocks that the tower will be attached to. According to the formulas used to calculate the weight of concrete, the blocks are too small to safely hold up the tower.
We have to know the weight. It has to be at least 7.5 tons. I have to take the crane and take some measurements.
To Jakob and his team's great relief, the blocks are over the minimum weight and do meet safety criteria. The tower's assembly can go ahead. The tower's top story is assembled separately. It has to be perched on top of the structure using a crane.
This is a big challenge for crane driver, taking the complete top of the tower up, and it's just millimeters to fit it into the connectors.
Over 30 meters in the air, strong winds make the heavy structure sway back and forth. But the crane operator pulls off the maneuver, and the team makes the last adjustments to allow the installation of the impressive array of electronic equipment.
The cranes did a good job. This was perfectly done. The people are now finishing the branding of the tower. I expect that we can move in tomorrow in the morning.
In Abu Dhabi, the production team works non-stop 7 days before the Red Bull Air Race. Although it's February, the sun beats down on the team installing the floating barges, and the temperature rises inside the control tower. The workers have to not only deal with the heat, but also work longer and longer days in the run-up to the event.
Kan je pakken gelijk die volgende?
At Zayed Port, the team prepares the area for the pilots, who will soon arrive in the capital.
In a couple days, we'll fly the airplane from RAC to Abu Dhabi and land at the temporary runway. The whole racetrack's being set up as we speak. Our own private runway is being created, and our hangars are being assembled. It's kind of cool that they create all this just for us to do what we love.
We have to understand that this is the top level in aviation. Some of them are acting like princesses, so they need a red carpet. Others are totally practical and will support you in your work, but in general, it's nothing we cannot solve. The difference between a pilot and God? God doesn't believe he's a pilot.
Whether they're gods or not, the pilots have no control over the thick fog paralyzing the country's 3 main airports, including the one in Abu Dhabi, 6 days before the race. Even though it's their 7th competition here, air race officials have never seen anything like it.
It was crazy. There was 50 airplanes trying to figure out where they should divert to, so we shut everything down. Fog is very, very rare here in the UAE. It happens a couple times a year when the seasons change, and the weathermen do not forecast it being an issue for us at all in Abu Dhabi.
Despite what race director Jim DeMatteo says, the fog is worrisome, as is the progress of the course's construction. The blowers and pylons have yet to arrive, and the organizers start to fear the worst.
We lost 1 container during transport. This is the container where the pylons were in, and we don't own a second set.
Unable to finish the air gates installation, the team carries out a number of secondary tasks. Still, the situation gets more problematic with each passing hour.
Due to the late arrival of the containers, we have to do some works right now, which we're supposed to do later, because now we are waiting for them.
But just as the team starts to lose hope, the missing container finally turns up in the air gate assembly area.
Could you just help us that they are not falling into the water? 1, 2, 3.
Perfect. Next one.
The team members barely have time to breathe a sigh of relief before they have to transport the equipment to the track.
We had to bring all the material by hand in the hot sun.
It's heavy material. A blower is about 110 kilograms, but we have to handle it.
On the main site, the tower is ready to house the electronic equipment that will be used in the race control room and the video center. In addition to providing a spectacular view of the track, the tower is equipped with high-tech, top-of-the-line video equipment, allowing race officials to review the action from every possible angle.
You could compare it with the Formula 1 setup. In fact, it's a race control like you use for every motorsport race, and so the difference is that you have to go up 4 levels of stairs.
With planes racing around in every direction, several antennas are set up to guarantee a continuous signal between race headquarters and the single-seaters, each connected to the tower by 5 radio transmission channels. Whether for communicating with the pilot, receiving a video signal, or transmitting telemetric data, the radio transmissions between the tower and the planes are paramount to ensure the success of the event. With the planes arriving imminently, the workload is enormous, and the schedule leaves no room for surprises.
We have, including some buffer, not more than 1 day in total.
And since the race is back after a long hiatus, the trunks containing the parts can be real surprise packages.
Packing 1 container with a tower 1 year ago means that you never know if you did any mistake. And come here, and if something is missing, it could be a big challenge.
The next morning, the pilots finally arrive at the temporary runway in their race planes. Right off the bat, they must put their skills to the test to land in the middle of Zayed Port.
While we're here in Abu Dhabi, our runway is actually a boat wharf. On one side is the water, On the other side is a row of steel light posts. We're only a fraction of a second away from things going very, very badly very quickly.
Aside from the obstacles surrounding it, the temporary runway is also dangerously short. At only 500 meters long, it's the antithesis of traditional runways, where Boeing 747s take up to 3,000 meters to land.
These planes are very clean and slippery, and if you come in just 5 knots, 10 kilometers an hour too fast, the plane can float above the runway, and the whole time it's floating, you're using up the available distance to go, and it's not until you get the wheels on the ground you start braking.
Now that the training camp is over, the teams prepare for the big race. They'll spend the next few days getting the hang of the real track and making last-minute adjustments to their planes. While similar at first glance, 3 types of planes are in competition: the Zivco Edge 540, the MXS, and the Corvus Racer. With most of them being aerobatic pilots, 11 out of the 12 competitors prefer the familiarity of an aerobatic plane that they tune specifically for the air race. Nicholas Ivanov opts for the versatility of the most popular plane in the championship.
Je vole sur un Edge 540 qu'on a transformé d'un avion de voltige en avion de course. On a juste modifié les capots, les carénages, le cockpit plus aérodynamique. Avec un fuselage en tube, on a pu après faire une peau tout autour de la structure en tube qui était plus affinée, ce qui j'espère nous donne un peu plus de vitesse.
According to Ivanov, his plane gives him an edge over his rivals who prefer the MXS, the other aerobatic plane in the championship.
Le MX, c'est un avion tout en carbone. On ne peut pas modifier les capots, le fuselage, donc on ne peut pas modifier grand-chose.
But to former fighter pilot Matt Hall, carbon is actually an advantage.
I chose the MXS myself because I've been involved with carbon fibre in my full military career for 18 years flying jet fighters, and I'm just used to how the carbon fibre is used and works and how strong it is. It's also a safety side of things that if something does go wrong, you want the strongest structure around you. I did have an incident at the Windsor race where I touched the surface of the Detroit River, and this aircraft effectively saved my life. It held together under quite a violent impact, and I was able to fly it out of the river and land back at the airfield. Unless we got the opportunity to fly each particular plane in exactly the same parameters, it's hard to know exactly which one's going to be better than the other. That said, I do believe as the race redevelops and the sponsors come on board and the budgets get bigger, people will start doing just like Formula One, wind tunnel testing and modelling to come up with the ideal aircraft, and it'll be a scratch-built race aircraft, similar to what Corvus is trying to do.
Rather than modifying an aerobatics plane like the other pilots, Hungarian Peter Bessenye teamed up with a Hungarian company to design a model tailor-made for the air race.
This airplane has not been built for aerobatic. This plane has been designed and developed especially for air racing. The aerodynamic, the shape, the wings has been modified for the fast straight lines and very fast moves.
At the very beginning, when I started to test the plane, it was not as good as now. Of course, it was a prototype. I fly, I give them the feedback, fly again, test, not good, good. Good direction, not good direction. It's a lot of work.
While the pilots get a handle on their new environment, the aquatic operations team is still out on the water installing pylons, a job they started the day before.
Odin, bereit zum Inflaten? We have over here all in all 14 pylons. Normally to inflate it takes us about 1 minute, but right now we had to do it for the first time, and that can take up to an hour per pylon. Pylon up in 3, 2, 1, go. Und Zug. Und Zug. Und Zug.
As they're being installed, the pylons are adjusted using belts until they're in the perfect position. Each pylon is equipped with a blower that maintains air pressure and a security device linked to the control tower. Monitored by computer, the pylon's pressure is relayed to the aquatic operations station. If the pressure is low, an indicator light goes on and a team is immediately dispatched to the site for inspection. Each pylon is made up of 9 different sections. The closer a section is to the ground, the more rigid its material is, so that it can resist the pressure generated by the blower. Since the pressure is lower up top, the upper sections are made of an ultra-light material, 40% lighter than paper. The fabric, which tears at the slightest contact, is similar to sailboat fabric and allows the pilots to graze the air gates without danger. The pylons of the double gates are conical, but not symmetrical. They have a straight side and a sloping side. To create a perfectly rectangular flight window, the sloping side is placed on the outside. The window, 14 meters wide, leaves little room to maneuver.
It's all about the quickest line. So we'll take the gates on quite a steep angle. Imagine 2 pylons like this, and as you move them like this, they get narrower. Well, that's the space that the plane has to go between.
Either vertically or horizontally, a plane that strays out of the flight window is disqualified. While the width of the flight window is clear, its 10-meter height, marked out by 2 yellow bands, requires the judges to keep an eye out, especially in the part of the course known as the chicane. To allow the judges to follow the action in every possible angle, live and in replay, technicians install and test the complex electronic equipment. A pilot flies through the track aboard a plane equipped with an array of telemetry gear. This includes an accelerometer, which plays a crucial role since speeds higher than 370 kilometers an hour will lead to immediate disqualification. Making a flying start, the pilots use a long approach corridor to enter the track just under the speed limit. The stopwatch is triggered automatically at the exact moment the plane's nose passes the first air gate.
It's very important to have a nice, good run-in between basically 355 and 365. It's perfect to see 370. It's playing dangerous, but hey, it's racing.
Along with measuring speed, the accelerometer calculates gravitational force, better known as G-force. While a roller coaster reaches a force of 3G and a Formula One racer can spike to 5G, an air race plane can easily reach up to 10G, by far the highest of any sports competition. To spare the planes and their pilots, for whom G-force is genuinely dangerous, race officials impose a maximum of 10G under penalty of disqualification.
When you're flying level, not turning, you're at 1G, just like when I'm sitting here right now. It's 1 times the force of gravity. And when I first come into a turn, if it's a hard turn, I can be pulling 10G just instantaneously.
To prevent pilots from going over it, race officials equip planes with a display screen, as well as an auditory aid. The higher the G-force, the sharper the audio signal's pitch. These tools could come in very useful in less extreme circumstances.
It has to be muscle memory. There's no way to react to the meter. By the time you already saw that it was too high, it's over. It's not something that builds up and you're watching and okay, 9.5, I'll just hold it there.
While the air race single-seaters can technically withstand up to 20G, for the pilots, the limit isn't clear-cut. And even though 10G spikes are equivalent to the weight of a car or an elephant resting on their bodies, the physiological effects are even more worrisome.
Le gros danger des G, c'est que tout est plus lourd. L'énergie du corps, en gros, le sang pèse 10 fois plus lourd aussi. Donc quand il pèse plus lourd, il va descendre dans les jambes et moins bien alimenter en oxygène le cerveau. Et s'il n'alimente pas bien le cerveau, à un moment, c'est ce qu'on appelle le voile noir, quoi.
Under the effects of G-force, pilots know they're in danger when they experience a gradual reduction in their color perception. Their peripheral vision starts to dim, and they feel like they're looking through a tunnel that shrinks and shrinks until everything turns black.
On est toujours conscient dans le noir, mais on entend toujours. Et après, on n'entend plus rien, et toujours en étant conscient. Et puis la phase suivante, c'est la syncope, quoi. Pouf. C'est gênant quand on est tout seul dans l'avion en train de piloter.
Anytime you're in a plane, this is bad, but when you're 30 meters from the ground, you can't have this happen. This is what we do, we push the limit, and if you want to be on the limit, you have to accept those challenges that come with being on the edge.
To help pilots combat gravitational force, the air race requires them to wear special G-suits. Using a system of tubes, These fluid-filled suits compress the pilot's legs, preventing blood from flowing down to their feet. Made of non-elastic Kevlar, the suit doesn't stretch. When the tubes expand as the fluid flows down, the pilot's legs and lower blood vessels are compressed.
It's an aid. It helps you a little bit. Maybe if you pull 10 Gs now, instead of 10 Gs, it would only act like maybe 9 Gs. So you still have to actively combat this.
Despite their high-tech suits, and even though they're very well trained, the pilots take every possible measure to avoid blacking out and to finish the race. To make sure their hearts have the strength to pump blood to their brains, they control their blood flow and counter the effect of gravity by doing the anti-G straining maneuver.
For all the pilots here, this is automatic. When they pull G, it's not a reaction to, okay, I'm starting to have tunnel vision. You can't recover, you have to do it immediately at the same time. Flexing our legs and our abdomen and our whole lower body, tensing it up, trapping the blood up in the upper part of your body. Basically how this works is it's like taking a full breath and trying to forcefully exhale but holding it in. And you would
comme ça, et en fait on s'habitue sans problème à une accélération supplémentaire jusqu'à comme ça 10 G. C'est une espèce de contrainte au départ, mais après ça devient une sorte de drogue. On a besoin de ça. On a besoin de ressentir ces accélérations, ces G, pour voir qu'on est écrasé dans le ciel. Ça fait partie du jeu.
With the planes about to make their first appearance, it's starting to feel like an air race in Abu Dhabi. 2 days before the grand finale, the pilots get ready to try out the track for the very first time. For the production team, it's finally time to test the facilities they've been working on for nearly 2 weeks.
As much as people want to initially put things together, the reality is that we need airplanes running through the course to get the real data, to make sure that the technology all works so that it gives us what we need to put the product on.
Hey guys, Danny wants everybody up there for a briefing. Boat drivers too, please.
On this busiest of days, track officials are already getting ready to repair pylons they've only just set up.
Abu Dhabi was classically a high hit rate on pylons because it was the first race back of the season and everyone was probably getting their eye in and hitting pylon.
250 miles an hour, even a small mistake is enough to hit a pylon, and it just happens like that.
While contact with a pylon during competition leads to disqualification, that's not the case during trials, where pilots are free to make mistakes as they get the hang of the track. And right away, fears of potential problems are confirmed. For the aquatic operations team, it's a practice day for the televised grand finale, when pylons will have to be replaced as quickly as possible, similar to a pit stop in auto racing.
If there's a pylon hit, we give the call to the boats that they can go into the race box. The guys jump off on the gate, start repairing. So they have like 1.5 minutes. From the aviation side, we get the call, okay, 30 seconds. 10 seconds. Okay, go out now. As soon as we're out, they give the aircraft a call that they can approach the race box again.
Number 95 Hall cleared into the track. Smoke on.
For fast replacement, the pylon's 9 sections are connected with zippers. When a section is damaged, the team replaces not only that section, but all sections above it, so they only have to use one zipper.
These spare parts we have all on boat. The boats are pretty packed with material. It's even hard to find a place for us to sit. Not a problem if we have 10 or 20 pylon hits per flying session. That's our job. We love our job and we love to do it.
At the hangars, the pilots awaiting their turn get ready at a fever pitch. After a 3-year wait, they'll soon know whether the Abu Dhabi track will play in their favor or not.
I've seen maps of the track, how it's supposed to be, but I've learned over the years that there's always a big difference between what you see on the paper and what's in real life. Even little changes can change your lines totally.
A very fast aircraft may be great in a straight line track, but there'll be other aircraft that may be not as fast, but they're great in a turning track.
Right after landing from his first test flight, Nicholas Ivanov and his rival Kirby Chambliss analyzed the problematic parts of the track.
I try to do something like that, and then to be like that. Le track n'est pas tout à fait le même qu'à l'entraînement, surtout après la deuxième porte, on fait zigzag, on va dans la suivante. Avant, on était obligé de faire un gros virage gauche-droite pour essayer de le prendre. Là, c'est beaucoup plus en ligne et les portes étaient un peu plus resserrées. And here, you have to turn on the right. Il faudrait le modifier un peu plus en largeur, le track, mais comme on n'a pas assez d'espace, ça va être comme ça.
While some pilots are unnerved by the track design, Pete McLeod is not among them. His trial run bodes well.
I think the guys did a great job building the track. The venue looks amazing. I mean, I'm having fun out there, and there's not a lot of magic to this track. A fast plane, guy who flies clean and no penalties is going to do very well. I think you're going to see a really tight race here in Abu Dhabi.
While the Abu Dhabi track differs slightly from previous years, its same location, the part of the city known as the Corniche, is convenient to the competition's comeback.
From the data collection perspective, we did have the benefit of being here for multiple years prior. We kind of know what's going on. Now, in other parts of the world, especially parts that we have not been to, we do what's called a location check, and we walk around everything, we look through everything to make sure that the race course will be designed and set up the proper way. Mostly driven by safety and how you can design it to stay within whatever area we're given to work within. But then if you have a marquee backdrop, you can design the track to make sure that that TV product is enhanced.
With thousands of spectators expected to line the track, the air race makes safety its highest priority. To mark out a safe fly zone, also known as the race box, the aviation team uses sophisticated computer applications.
Red Bull has a unique software they've actually enhanced and designed, and we have that capability that anywhere along the track, if the plane crashes, we have what's called a debris field, if you will, a scatter pattern, and that really helps us design the course to make sure that it's safe for the spectators.
The software uses ballistic extrapolation to determine the perimeter in which the track should be built, taking into account the plane's speed, altitude, and energy, as well as meteorological factors like wind and air density.
The reality is aviation doesn't have a lot of tolerance for mishaps and mistakes. We won't, in an aviation perspective, push anybody too hard. We don't use the track design to limit what the pilots can do. We want every pilot to be able to fly through it. We just want the best pilot to win because he has the fastest time.
Six hours before the race begins, the city of Abu Dhabi and the air race site are quiet. After more than 2 weeks of work, the facilities are tried and tested. The track is finally finished, and the planes are ready for takeoff. The event's success now depends only on the pilots, the crowd, and Mother Nature, whose random and unpredictable winds make Abu Dhabi one of the most difficult stops on the tour.
The wind has a significant impact on how the pilots fly the race course. If there's a large crosswind, you might pick a certain line that works for you that day. Well, the next day, the wind can be coming from the other direction, and you have to completely change how you approach the track.
Comme on vole dans une masse d'air, la masse d'air peut se déplacer. Donc quand il y a du vent, il faut intégrer ça dans le parcours et dans les virages. On a envie d'aller là, mais en fait, le vent va nous pousser, du coup, il va nous amener là.
Given the strong crosswinds, the pilots go through the air gates using a technique usually reserved for landing.
C'est comme si vous nagez contre courant de travers, il faut nager un peu en crabe ou avancer un peu en crabe pour avancer droit. Donc certaines fois, il faut viser un peu à côté de la porte. On est un peu comme ça, et comme si vous dérapez en voiture, hein, vous devez savoir faire ça. Regardez sur la porte sur la fenêtre de côté pour avancer droit.
Since they can't set a racing line in advance due to Mother Nature's fickleness, the pilots have to know how to adjust to changing conditions. Before starting time, the control tower indicates the wind speed and direction on the track. But for some pilots, this information just isn't enough.
Si on passe pas le premier, on peut voir le précédent qui vole. Comme on a du fumigène, on voit un peu le déplacement du fumigène. Donc là, on peut encore affiner l'indication supplémentaire du vent.
I grew up in northern Canada flying float planes, so I'm very used to reading the water and the waves. I don't look for cues with the flags or different things. I just read the water, and every little part of the track will give you different information. And it's kind of maybe a unique skill that I have over some of the other guys.
While some pilots feel they have a bad weather advantage, it's the organizers and spectators that have gotten their wish: a sunny afternoon with little wind.
To be quite honest, after such a long hiatus, I didn't expect everything to go as smoothly as it has been going. All the training times have been very, very tight so far, so it's going to be a wonderful competition.
There was some tension today, of course, especially before the race. There are a lot of new people in the teams. Everybody has to adjust on each other, and of course, because of this, there are challenges.
The main challenge today was keeping the complete team calm and focused on what we are doing here. Everybody was excited from the morning on.
Once you get into that race mode, then all bets are off, and I think there was a little bit of nerves and butterflies there.
When you're here in the tower in full stress, headset on, and so you don't really recognize that a complete new world championship started now. This is something amazing.
Over the turquoise waters of the Persian Gulf, the pilots show off their talents by performing a spectacular stunt called the half Cuban 8. This vertical 180-degree turnaround maneuver allows them to quickly head in the opposite direction by doing a half loop followed by a half roll. A demanding and dangerous aerobatic feat that makes it hard to stay under the 10G limit, the half Cuban 8 gives pilots many possibilities for their racing line and provides a spectacular show for the aerobatics fans on the ground.
You want to go the opposite direction you're coming from, so you want to turn around very fast. Some guys will go very straight up and steep, others will go very oblique out to the side.
Le but du jeu, c'est de pouvoir trouver le compromis entre le virage horizontal ou le virage un peu plus vertical. Quand on part en vertical, forcément, on perd de l'énergie. Si on fait un truc trop serré, on prend trop de G, on perd l'énergie. Si on fait un truc trop grand, on perd de l'énergie là-haut et en plus, on perd du temps. Le problème, c'est qu'on ne sait jamais, en fait, réellement comment ça fonctionne. Certaines fois, on a l'impression que ça va très bien, et puis en fait, ça n'allait pas, et inversement.
Although the pilots are the day's undisputed stars, all eyes turn to the unsung heroes when the aquatic operations team finally gets to demonstrate its know-how.
We worked for that for the last 17 days. I can say we were a bit nervous. After the first pylon hit, we saw everything is perfect, everything is good. The time on the air gate was about 1 minute and 7 seconds. I can say it now, it was the best time we've ever done. Things which unites the team is to love to travel around the world, to love the water, and to love the Red Bull Air Race.
After nearly 3 weeks being here in the Emirates, 3 weeks of hard work, of leading a team up to 400 people, you step out of the tower and just say, wow, and that's it. It's a great feeling, something in between happy and empty. We came with a full charter Boeing and additional charter flights, a lot of sea transport. We have to say that the complete team did a perfect job and solved all challenges.
Overall, you can see that it's an incredibly complex production. Hundreds and hundreds of people were involved to pull this off. And can't tell you how proud I am of everybody and how well everybody worked. The atmosphere in the tower was nice because the atmosphere on the course was nice.
It was a fun track to fly, pretty easy, not overly technical, but a lot of fun, good flow, and I had a great result, and it was just amazing to be back in the track. So overall, that means it's perfect for me.